Welcome to Moms on Mics. I'm Joanne.
I'm Cash.
And I'm Sophia.
This episode, we continue our coverage of the West Memphis Three. Last week, we went through the timeline leading up to and including the discovery of the bodies. And this week, we will look at the start of the police investigation. I think I've said it before. I probably am going to say it in every episode. There's a lot of controversy with the police investigation. Some people are like, they did amazing. A lot of people are like, they did terrible. I'm going to put them like right in the middle. I don't know. I'm not going to give them too much.
And I think they did kind of horrible.
I just don't want to be on that bandwagon of like, it's all the police's fault. Like, I think they had some misguided directions that they took in their investigation. But I think, especially now, after doing all the research, knowing what they've done, I think they did more than I ever gave them credit for. There's just a lot of missed things, a lot of things that are like glaringly obvious that they're like, I don't see it. And it's right there. We'll let you all decide, though. So May 7th, the police canvassed the area with a questionnaire. A few questions indicated what type of person the police were looking for. Some questions were, are you or anyone you know a Vietnam veteran? They asked this due to the way that the boys were tied up. Did anyone in the area wear a uniform? Again, because of the veteran, and also because kids are more likely to listen to people who are in uniform, so they have some type of control over them, right? Anyone with an injury to their penis. I'm sorry, they're knocking on the neighbors' doors.
That should be kept quiet, considering one of the kids was hurt like that.
Right? So he's not going to be like, oh, hey, my penis is hurt.
Right? That's an excellent point, because they're like, nobody knew any of this information. You're canvassing the fucking neighborhood on May 7th. It doesn't take a genius to be like, they're asking if I know anyone with an injury to their penis. I wonder why. Could it possibly be that one or all had injuries to their penises? Like, that's a really good point, and I'm embarrassed to say I never thought of that before. But yeah. Okay, so possible that someone with an injury to their penis may have acted that out when emasculating Christopher Byers. 7 p.m. May 7th, Garrett Swarding, a ninth grader, tells police he went to Jason Baldwin's house at 7:30, and 8 o'clock to get a shirt that Jason borrowed from him. He says Jason was there all 3 times. The third time, Garrett stays and they play Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo until 9 p.m. Garrett's story is questionable because when he was first questioned by police, he said he didn't remember seeing Jason at all that night. Later, he stated he wasn't good with dates and would recant his story completely and said it was another day. If the recant is true, Jason doesn't have much of an alibi. There were people that would put him at various places and various times, but nothing solid. Even though out of the 3 boys accused and ultimately convicted of these murders, Jason was the one that people thought was the most innocent. May 7th, Steve Jones, Shane Griffin, and Officer James Sudbury go to Damien's trailer to speak to him. They find a pair of tennis shoes and combat boots that were caked in mud. They see Damien has a pentagon on his chest. Damien admits to being a patient at Little Rock Memorial Mental Hospital, where he was diagnosed as manic depressive and schizophrenic. He tells them that he was once involved in a Wiccan religion and a local group called the Convent in the Divine Light, which is a white witchcraft group. He also tells police he thinks the murders were a thrill kill and that his sister Michelle was sexually abused by his stepfather. They take everything Damien has told them back to the police and tell the investigators. Just let me clarify. He didn't randomly say, I think if the murders were a thrill kill. The police asked him, what do you think of the murders? Who do you think did it? Like, they asked him lots of questions about the murders. So even though he said they were a thrill kill, it wasn't just random out of the blue. Which, hey cops, if you say there's no reason he would have any information about this, why are you fucking asking him all these questions? And honestly, what question is that to ask an 18-year-old? That you already think is not, like, I'm just thinking of my 18-year, younger because I was married by then, but like my own dumbass, I would have said the same shit, something like this, because I would have, you think you're a badass and you think you're cool and you just like, I don't know. I don't put too much stock in that.
You're young and dumb.
Right?
Police would get a tip on May 7th that Steve Skaggs often spends time in Robin Hood Hills. The police meet with Skaggs the next day. Skaggs would claim he was at work the day of the murders from 8:30 a.m. to midnight. He worked at a mechanic shop and slept in his car behind the shop. Skaggs quit his job on May 6th. He says he and his brother were going to leave town, but his brother was arrested for unpaid fines on May 7th. The police knew that Steve Skaggs had served time in 1982 for a breaking and entering charge. Although the charge isn't anywhere near a triple murder charge, breaking and entering can escalate to more violent crimes down the road. When the police speak to Skaggs, they ask him if he has heard of the murders. He says he kept hearing the name Damien and that he might be involved in the devil worship. He's not sure of the last name of Damien, but thinks he changed his name from Michael. He also said that Stevie Branch's dad had been a big-time drug dealer and the murders could have been revenge for that. The police give him a polygraph test, which he passes. But like we know, polygraph tests are not admissible in court, and you can pass a lie detector test even if you're lying. They read your biometrics, telling the reader if you're nervous or not. Once he passes the test, the police lose interest in him and move on. May 9th, Officer Shane Griffin and Bill Durham go talk to Damien. They go to Jason Baldwin's house where Jason, Damien, and Dominique Tier were. They talk to the three of them in the front yard of Jason's house. Jason says they had gone to Jason's uncle's house to cut the grass, then gone to the laundromat on North Washington Street, and his dad picked him up at 6 p.m. His father took Jason and Dominique home, but Damien walked home.
Also, on May 9th, the police interviewed Murray Ferris, who was a student at the local high school. Murray had once pulled a knife out at school, threatening to kill another student. He was 18 and allegedly involved in cults. Jennifer Bearden said he was the head of the local cult. Jennifer had also stated that Damien had speculated that Murray might have been the one who killed the kids. Ferris admits to police that he was the leader of a cult of white witches called the Divine Light, the same one Damien had admitted to being in. They noted that Ferris wore a pentagram necklace. They ask Ferris to take a polygraph test, which he agrees to take and passes it, so the police move on. This is another mistake the West Memphis Police Department continues to make in this case. They put far too much stock in polygraph tests, especially when you look at the types of people they are giving the polygraph tests to. These are people that live in a different type of lifestyle, a lifestyle that has an extreme focus on meditation, something that would be a huge asset if you're trying to pass a polygraph test. The Divine Light Mission, founded by Prem Rawat, followers were expected to meditate frequently as a central part of their practice. Divine Light Mission were expected to meditate formally twice a day.
So the whole meditation thing, it basically teaches you to calm your body at any time.
You can go into meditation mode during a polygraph test.
Yeah, exactly. They put so much stock into the polygraph test, right? Like if you fail, then you are guilty, and if you pass, you are innocent.
On May 10th, 16-year-old Chris Luttrell, a member of Murray Ferris's coven, would tell police that Damien had attended a few of their meetings and that he liked to stab frogs with sharpened sticks to see how long it would take them to die. While there was a correlation between animal abuse and it escalating towards abuse or violence towards humans, it's not always the case. Animal cruelty is recognized by law enforcement, psychologists, and researchers as a significant red flag for broader antisocial tendencies and interpersonal violence, such as domestic violence, child abuse, and elder abuse. Studies have shown that animal abusers are, in some cases, 5 times more likely to commit violent crimes against humans compared to non-abusers. Experts confirm that it is not inevitable that an animal abuser will go on to abuse people. Many individuals who abuse animals never become violent towards humans, and many violent criminals have no history of animal abuse. While many children and adolescents who harm animals do not become violent towards humans, serious and repeated animal cruelty in children is considered a warning sign that the child may be a victim of abuse themselves or at risk of developing antisocial behaviors. Chris also claimed that Damien had told him he was immune to fire, claiming that he burned down his father's garage and stood in the fire, that he had also poured gasoline on his foot and lit it on fire. If Damien did in fact say this, it's likely that he said it just to show how tough he was or to impress the coven. But whether he said it or not doesn't have anything to do with the murders. Both Chris and Murray were attending services at a local Baptist church at the time of the murders.
You can just see him saying that though. Hey, like, I am immune to fire.
Yeah.
I set my foot on fire. I burned down my dad's garage and I stood in the foot. Like, fuck. If Damien actually said it, for this kid to be like, yeah, it's real. Really? My God. May 10th, an anonymous tip was called into the police stating that Damien and Dominique killed the boys and that an LG took their clothes for them and that Damien has parts of their bodies in a box. LG is LG Hollingsworth. So Brian Ridge interviewed Damien again on May 10th. Damien came to the West Memphis Police Department for an interview regarding any information that he may have concerning the above-noted homicide. Present during the interview were Inspector James Sudbury of the Crittenden County Drug Task Force, Detective B. Ridge, and Damien. A subject description was filled out that contained information about Damien's residence, his vital statistics, and his family. At this point, Damien was not considered to be a suspect, and only general knowledge questions were being asked. Damien was very calm and even cold as he answered the questions concerning his background and any knowledge he may have had concerning the homicide. Damien stated that he was a member of a white witch group that he referred to as Wicca. He stated that his belief was there was a goddess and not a god. He stated that everyone in the group works towards a divine light. Upon reaching that state, they become like gods themselves. He has been a member of this group for about 5 years, he stated. You know, I'm going to take a wild guess that this group is like a group of teenagers that like to smoke, drink, and hang out, fuck around in places, and they just call themselves this. Damien stated that he had met one person that he considered to be a priestess. He stated that the person he met was Deanna Holcomb, who he stated lived in the Harbor Yard, Hardin Village area of Marion on Cabral Cove. He stated that she worshipped cats and what she did with her form of witchcraft. Damien stated that on Tuesday, May 4th, he was at home from when he got out of bed at about 10:30 to 11 a.m. until he got up at about 12 noon. When he left and went to Lakeshore, he stated that he has a lot of friends at Lakeshore since he used to live there with his stepfather, Jack Eccles. Damien was wearing a necklace that he claimed that he had just bought at the Mall of Memphis on the Saturday before this interview. The necklace had a pentagram as a pendant that Damien explained meant some type of good symbol for the Wicca magic that he was in.
Watching his interview, though, he just looked like an idiot. One of those top kids that just wanted to be liked by everyone.
Like Damien did, you think? Yeah. You know, like we've said before, his home life was quite shitty. Right? And I think he just wanted to have something that others didn't, maybe, whether it like within this like Wiccan, right? It was something that he could belong to and a group he could belong to from when he's from a family that was like split and then back together and split. So he didn't really have a sense of belonging with his home life, like his family life. And so I think this Wicca group was his sense of belonging. And he said and did stupid shit. Because he was a
That's
teenager.
what I mean. Like he acted like an idiot, but it seems just like he just wanted to fit in. He wanted to just be like, he just did it because it was cool. Damien stated that on Wednesday he was with Jason Baldwin and Dominique Tier, and that they had gone to Jason's uncle's house on Center Street in West Memphis. He couldn't give a specific address, but he said that it was near Alexander's laundromat, where he stated that he called his mother to pick him up. He stated that his mother picked him up along with Dominique Tier and took Dominique home. Dominique is Damien's girlfriend, who is pregnant with Damien's baby. Dominique lives in Lakeshore Trailer Park with her mother. Damien stated that after he and his mother dropped Dominique off, that he, along with his mother, sister Michelle, and father Joe Hutchinson, had gone to the residence of Susan Sanders and visited for a while. He stated that he was at the residence at about 3 to 5 p.m. on that date, and after leaving the residence, he went home where he stated that he got on the phone with Holly George, who he states live in Bartlett, Tennessee. He stated that he got off the phone with Holly after talking for a long time at about 11:30 p.m. that night. Damien stated that on Thursday he went to Lakeshore where he stayed with Dominique. He stated that he heard the boys were missing from Jason Baldwin while he was at Lakeshore that day. He then stated that he heard that the news that the boys were missing from Jason's mother. Damien stated that Steve Jones from the Juvenile Authority had been by to see him a day or two before, and that Steve had told him about how the boys' testicles had been cut off and that someone had urinated in their mouths. Stated that Steve said that could have been the reason that the bodies were placed in water so that the urine could have been washed out. That's ridiculous.
Right?
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Damien had an opinion for who could have done the murders as being someone sick and that it was some type of thrill kill. He also stated that the penis was a symbol of power in his religion, known as Wicca. He also stated that the number 3 was a sacred number in the belief. When asked about Jason Baldwin, he described a Jason Baldwin that lived in West that was not his friend Jason Baldwin. He claimed that the other was mean and that he had been known to kill snakes, which he claimed were just for the hell of killing. This Jason was described as being about 5'9" feet tall, 18 years old, and 300 pounds. He stated that he thought Jason was known to smoke dope, but he was not queer.
Does queer come in though?
So basically, this is the cop asking, or the investigator, whatever, asking him these questions, and this is all his answers. They didn't really say what questions they asked him. They're just saying, this is what he said. He said this. He said this. But instead of saying, we asked this question, and then he said this, he's just, this is what he's writing down. So it all sounds very...
It sounds very weird.
Yeah. But without the context, it sounds batshit.
Yeah.
This is another reason why this makes Damien look like a fucking nut job. And another bad move by the cops. Like, tell us what you're asking, and then we can determine why. Because for him to randomly say, like, oh, he smokes dope, but he's not queer. What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
So random, right?
But I would, like, if I was to guess, which...
Do you smoke dope? Are you gay?
Or, right? Or is this person gay because of what they think is a sexual crime against boys, they're looking for a homosexual.
Yep.
Which,
absolutely.
Let's remember, it's 1993.
Yeah.
We are not saying that there's a connection. We're saying in 1993, in West Memphis, Arkansas, they might have been like, oh, whoever did this must be a homosexual.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Damien stated that he knew L.G. Hollingsworth through Dominique. He thought that L.G. was a relative by marriage. He stated that L.G. was kind of weird in that on one occasion, he wanted to trade girlfriends with Damien for a night. When he asked about what he had heard about how the murders had occurred, he stated that they probably died of mutilation. He stated that he heard that some guy had cut them up. He heard that they were placed in the water and that they may have drowned. He stated that because of what he had heard, he believed that at least one of the boys had been cut up. He stated that one of the boys may have been cut more than the others. Damien felt that the homicide may have been for the purpose of trying to scare someone. Damien stated that he felt that it was probably one person because if it were more than one person, somebody would probably tell about it sooner or later. He said that there would be a fear of squealing by one of the persons in the act if it were more than one person. When asked if the water had any type of meaning in the Wicca or black magic, Damien stated that water was a demon-type symbolism and that all people have a demonic force. He further stated that people have control over the demonic force in them. When asked about how he thought the person felt that had done the homicides, he stated that the person probably felt good about what he had done and that he felt good that he had the power to do what he had done. Don't forget, though, that the police had put out a bulletin over the police radio that the press had been monitoring, and the press had released the information the day after the bodies were found.
But so they make a big deal about the way he responded to these questions. Okay, so everybody has a good and an evil within them, I would say. Like, that's pretty accurate, right? People have control over their demonic force in them. Well, I sure fucking hope so, because if you don't have any control over it, you're just out there doing bad shit all day long, right? So of course you have to control that. I'm gonna guess that whoever did this probably did feel good about doing it, or why would they have done it in the first place? They probably felt pretty powerful, at least during doing it. Even if I have my theories on what happened, and I think based on my theory, the person probably didn't celebrate per se after. He or they, whatever, probably felt that they had done the right thing. So therefore feeling good about it after. So I don't think you can take what he said and being like, oh my God, see, he's psycho. I think it all makes sense. He maybe didn't word it in the most politically correct way because he was 18 and he was kind of a shit. So they took it to be like, oh my God, he's psycho.
And he probably said it like a little shit.
Oh, 100%. 100% Damien sat there and was like, bet you they're probably pretty proud of it. And whether he meant it the same way that I interpret what he said or not, he could have totally meant it to be like a dick, right? Or to make himself kind of feel cool, because these cops are constantly interrogating him. They're constantly talking to him. I could see how they would assume at 18, if they hadn't done it, I could see how they would assume that it didn't really fucking matter what they said. And they would be like, why the fuck are these cops questioning me? Like, I'm just an 18-year-old kid and who doesn't know anything about it. And if these cops are coming and question me, then I'm going to just be a dick and give them all this stupid information because they should be out there doing their job.
Well, and he was also known to the cops, so he was probably just pissed off with the cops all to begin with.
Right? Like, he constantly has been fucking around with these cops for years. Yeah. So I don't think he would have taken it too seriously.
Well, he's 18.
Yep.
If he, like... I just know me being an 18-year-old being questioned by all these police. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't have that kind of attitude if you were guilty.
Right? If you were guilty, like, you'd want to be hiding it more.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, it's almost exactly what you expect an innocent, dumbass kid to do.
Exactly.
Is this, right?
Exactly.
A guilty 18-year-old, you expect them, A, they probably would have left town already.
Yeah.
Or B, they would be like, nope, no, sir, I don't know nothing.
Yes, exactly.
You know, because they don't want to bring attention to themselves. He wants to bring attention to himself because he don't give a fuck because
he didn't do it.
He doesn't have anything to hide, right?
Right.
I know I was going to try and keep my beliefs hidden.
It's
really hard.
I have Apple TV now, so I am going to watch this.
Oh,
yeah. Try to watch it because Okay,
the first opening scene is the hardest.
Okay.
That's it.
It's Paradise Lost, right?
Yeah.
Are there multiple?
Yeah, there's 3. Okay. So the first opening scene, like they are going to show other bits, but it'll be like a quick clip.
Yeah.
The first opening scene though is the most difficult. Okay. You're going to see the boys' bodies on the riverbanks. Okay. I will say they look like mannequins.
Okay.
They don't look real. It's not like you don't. I mean, Cash.
Is it like that movie Stand By Me where they find the body and it's like white?
Yeah.
White.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say mannequins, because I'm thinking like white plastic. Yeah, that's exactly what they look like. When I saw it for the first time, like years ago, I didn't actually I thought they had used dolls. I didn't realize it was actually them because they didn't look real. It didn't look what you expect them to. You expect them to look all beaten up and like bloody, and they don't look like that.
Right.
So it's almost, I'm saying this because it's like easier a little bit, right? It's not quite as it's not gruesome.
Okay. Yeah, you don't see like a whole bunch of injuries on them or anything. They are literally like white. The only thing is like one face looks flat as a board.
Yeah, like they're almost not recognizable as
It's probably
kids. Yeah.
the water that does that to your body.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. The other one that you can watch too, after you've watched those, did you finish watching it, Cash? Um,
No, that's on my list tonight
okay.
and tomorrow.
It's called West of Memphis,
Okay.
and it is going to explain so much about like
I'm
the
gonna write
case
these
and the
down. Paradise Lost.
yeah, do you want me to find out? Let me
And
look
then
what
what's the
their
next one?
Starts with an R.
Revelations.
Yes, and then
Isn't that the third? And then Purgatory is the third. Yeah, so
yes.
Paradise Lost, Revelations, and then Paradise Lost, Purgatory.
Okay. And then what's the other shore? Show?
West of Memphis.
Okay.
And then if you really want to get wild, there's a movie called The Devil's Knot.
Okay.
And that one has Reese Witherspoon, but it's pretty, I would say that's really good. It gets a
right.
lot of hate, that movie. I thought
Okay.
it was pretty good, so.
And all are on Apple TV?
Yes.
Okay.
One I had to rent on Prime.
Okay.
It might have been West of Memphis that I had to get on Prime.
Okay.
You can like rent it for like $5 or buy it for like $15. I
Okay.
bought it because I know that I'm gonna go back and
Yeah.
look.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
When asked why he thought the victims were so young, he stated that the younger the victim, then the more innocent the victim would be. That in turn meant that the more innocent the victim would be, the more power the person would have from the sacrifice. Damien went further to explain that in his Wicca religion, he knew that evil done comes back 3 times. He stated that meant that any evil done by a person would be rewarded by the person doing the deed, having 3 times the evil done to him in revenge. Damien stated that his favorite book of the Bible was that of Revelations because of the stories in it about what was being done by the devil and the suffering done by people at the hands of the devil. It's honestly the most exciting of the books too, so just saying. Damien stated that he figured that the killer knew the kids went into the woods and even asked them to come out of the woods. He stated that the boys were not big, not smart, and they would have been easy to control. He also felt that the killer would not have been worried about the boys screaming due to it being in the woods and close to the expressway. He further stated that the killer probably wanted to hear the screaming. Damien mentioned that he thought that it was scary that we were doing psychological profiles and that he was on an antidepressant that he said was imipramine. When asked what he thought the person who killed the boys was feeling now, Damien stated that the person probably thought it was funny and that he didn't care whether or not he got caught. Again, because he's just a dickhead teenager.
Right?
He also sounds like he's been around the block for it a few times too, in that sense.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's been arrested, right, before. He's been interrogated by the police before.
But it almost sounds like he's been around like a few fights kind of deal. Maybe not killings per se, but it sounds like he's been around a few fights himself.
Oh, because he said that they're not big, not smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so realistically, when you're 18, but a lot of 18-year-old boys think young kids are dumb. And they're, they're not big, they're not smart. Of course they're not. They think of them like they're just dumb little kids. So this statement doesn't seem anything out of the ordinary to me. In hindsight, yes. So before anyone comes at me and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she," no. In hindsight, knowing what happens to these 3 boys, of course it sounds like horrific. But at the time, if you take it from, like, go ask some random 18-year-old what he thinks of some random 8-year-old. He's not going to be like, well, that's a pretty cool dude, right? Maybe if it's his brother or his cousin or his nephew, whatever. But if it's just some random kid, they're going to be like, he's annoying. He's dumb. He's not very tough, because of course he's not, because you're 18 and he's 8. Like, but maybe to other 8-year-olds he's tough, but
he just almost makes himself sound like it.
oh, he does, but I think that's his intention, right?
When asked what kinds of items we should be searching for, he stated that we should be looking for stones in the area, candles, a knife, and some type of crystals. Damien was asked what kind of cigarettes he was smoking, and he stated that he smoked the cheapest brand that he could find. Damien stated that he felt the murderer would be someone local and that the person would not flee from the area. It was noted that Damien had the tattoo of E, V, I, and L across his left knuckles, and he stated that Jason Baldwin had the same tattoo on his knuckles. At this time, Damien was asked if he would submit to having hair samples taken and blood samples. He stated that he did not object to the samples being taken. It was further asked if he would be willing to take a polygraph examination if one could be scheduled, and he again stated that he would take the test. Sudbury then left the room and attempted to set up a polygraph examination to determine if he was being truthful in his statements. I asked Damien if he had considered himself to be intelligent, at which time he stated that he thought he was very intelligent. He stated that he dropped out of school, but that he was self-taught and that he was very smart and more intelligent than most people. Sudbury had asked questions throughout the interview that he had listed. Sudbury kept notes himself as to answers that Damien had given to his questions. At this time, Damien was turned over to Detective Durham for a polygraph examination. After a time, Detective Durham came and met with me and other officers and reported that Damien had been untruthful and, according to the polygraph, was involved in the murders. It was determined at this time Detective Durham and Sudbury would continue the interrogation that had begun when it was discovered that he was being untruthful.
I would like to point out that, okay, Damien said a lot of stupid shit. He said a lot of things that could be taken wrong in hindsight. But when asked if they could have like a hair sample and what was it?
Blood sample.
A hair sample and a blood sample, he had no objections. He was like, yep, no problem. Would you object to that if you were guilty? Fuck yeah, you would. Right?
Yeah.
And he also said, will you take a polygraph test? Sure. I don't think if you were guilty, you would be so eager to, exactly. You're not going to comply so easily. So yeah, he's going to say, he says over and over and over again, stupid things, which we can say in hindsight is stupid.
But he's 18. I said some pretty stupid things when I was 18 too, so.
Right? I mean, I said some pretty stupid things last week.
I still say stupid things, right?
Like, I think it's easy to look back in hindsight, and I think that's what a lot of people do. They look back and say, well, he said this about murdered boys. He said this about murdered boys, and he knew the boys were murdered. Yeah, but he was 18, and if he didn't have anything to do with it, of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
But he did all the things that were legal, like to help with the investigation. He gave the blood, he gave the hair, he took the polygraph. Just saying.
One thing to remember is that the police can lie and say you failed a polygraph test when in fact you didn't. They often do this as part of their interrogation tactic to get you to confess. Polygraph tests are not admissible in court, so whether you pass or not really has no bearing. This interview is important for a few reasons. The first being this interview is what makes police focus their investigation on Damien Moore. The second is it shows how Damien himself focuses on Wicca and worship. He mentions these things that the police will investigate. It's been said many times by people who think Damien and the West Memphis Three are innocent that police went on a witch hunt and focused on devil worship and satanic panic, when in fact, Damien brought up the subjects and the police had to investigate them. The third is that Damien mentions things about the murders that end up being true, like the candle wax. One of the boys did have candle wax on them, and the knife. There was a knife involved. He said things that made sense to the police, like the fact the killer wouldn't have been worried about the screaming because the interstate was right there. That being said, the fact that the interstate noise would have covered up the sounds of screaming is not that difficult to figure out. In fact, the idea that screaming in the woods may not have been heard outside of the woods makes sense. The trees would muffle the sound too, along with the noise from the interstate. And the killer obviously wasn't too worried about being caught, as they did it in a public area. The fact that a knife was used also would have been pretty obvious. As Damien said, he was told they were mutilated and cut up. Pretty safe bet that a knife would have been used. The candle wax is the one that stands out though. But the question remains, is Damien just being a smartass 18-year-old saying things that are stupid? Damien likes to think he's smarter than most people. He exaggerates, he lies, he does things that are questionable, and things that are just flat out not okay. Like talks to girls that are only 12 years old. It has been said he has a girlfriend that was 12 years old, but I couldn't confirm that was a romantic type girlfriend or a girl who's just a friend. It's easy to look back at his comments in hindsight and as an adult and say, I wouldn't say things like that in this situation, or even that innocent people wouldn't say things like that. But remember, Damien is 18 years old, so his frontal lobe isn't fully developed. He obviously has a lack of self-control and a history of lying and doing things that were not in his best interest. So him saying things that make him look guilty or to make himself look, in his eyes, intimidating or cooler than he is something that fits with Damien's current MO. But again, this doesn't mean he's guilty. It just means he wasn't a great guy.
Right. So this wax has been brought up a few times by police. There was nothing on the autopsy saying that there was wax present.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm not sure where, and it's not clear, unless I'm missing it completely, unless wax has another scientific name that I don't know, which I couldn't, because, well, not just me, I guess, because Google also didn't find one. It's not brought up anywhere, like, there's no scientific proof that I can find other than the cop saying there was wax at the scene.
Remember the coroner? He wasn't the greatest either.
Right? That's the thing. So I'm like, I don't know if they're like, did he call it something different? But I don't remember. Like, we went through the autopsies. You guys haven't heard that yet, but you will next week. But we went through the autopsies. There was no mention of wax. Yeah. So yeah, it comes up a few times, but I'm like, I don't know where. Anyway, when reading a polygraph report, there are some abbreviations, and these are what they mean. SR means significant reaction or significant response. This is usually interpreted as deception indicated, which is also put as DI. Like, people make this shit more clear. One or the other. Is it a significant reaction or deception indicated? Just saying. IN or INC is inconclusive. The data collected was insufficient to determine whether the subject was being truthful or deceptive. C is control comparison questions, which refers to the control or comparison questions used in the exam to elicit reactions. A common result is NSR, no significant response, or DI, deception indicated, which means the examinee was found deceptive. DISR, deception indicated, significant response. Like, I don't understand.
Just say SR.
Right?
You're full of shit.
Right?
IN, it's just, we don't know.
Yeah, they even put...
You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, like, let's make it super confusing. Like, no wonder people have...
They're like, what?
Yeah, they're like, he failed. Did he? Or could you just not remember which fucking abbreviation he used? Like, they even use the C, which often stands for coughing. All right.
No, C's control comparison question.
No, look further down. C often stands, like where the controller is, often stands for coughing.
I don't know.
So, like, is your C for your control comparison question, or is your C the coughing one? You couldn't have picked, like, CO means coughing or something, right? Like
coughing, like real, like.
Yeah, yeah. If you're taking a polygraph test and you cough, they make a note of it.
Oh, okay.
You're going to have a whole lot of C's if you ever give me a polygraph test.
Right?
I cough a lot. I'm sorry.
I'm always clearing my throat. It doesn't mean I'm lying.
Exactly. And it just, yeah, I don't know. It depends. What if you're in a room that's dusty? You're going to get a lot of coughing because I'm asthmatic. So I'm just saying. And R often stands for request for repetition of a question. Like, just repeat the fucking question. Anyway, now you have no understanding because we talked through the whole thing. Polygraph tests and report for Damien Eccles, West Memphis Police, May 10th, 1993. IN, inconclusive. The question was, have you ever taken a polygraph test before? Right there, if that is an inconclusive answer, don't continue. Because if it's inconclusive on a yes or no, such as, like, as easy as that, really? Number 2, the response was SR. Significant reaction. In regard to the murder of those 3 young boys, are you going to tell the truth during this test? No shit, you'd have a significant reaction. You just got asked if you're telling the truth in the murder of 3 boys. Like, number 3, he was an R, so the request to repeat the question. At any time on Wednesday or Wednesday night were you in Robin Hood Hills? Now remember, Damien walked everywhere all the time, right? Maybe he doesn't remember, like maybe the Wednesday prior he was in there. Maybe the day before he was. So I can understand why that might be an unclear answer, right? Question 4 was a C reaction, which he could have either coughed or it could have been a control comparison question. And it was, have you ever killed a cat or dog?
And he coughed. Is
Right?
that what that-
Yeah, he either coughed or it was a comparison question. We don't know because they use a C for 2 different things. So, number 5 was an R response, so request for repetition, and that was, were you present when those boys were killed? So I don't know who requests for that to be repeated. I don't know if the polygraph dude asked the question and then Damien said, hey, can you repeat that? But that could be for a number of reasons. Were you quiet? Did you stutter? Did you, like, was he just not simply not listening? Number 6, have you ever taken part in devil worship? That was a C, so he either coughed or it was a comparison question again. Number 7, did you kill any of those boys? Again, it's an R, so we don't know if it was who asked for it to be repeated. Number 8, have you taken any drugs or medication today? And that was inconclusive. He's on meds. Like, he's on meds that he takes every day. Maybe he's like, fuck, did I forget my meds today? I mean, I would be.
Yeah.
Even if I had just taken them, I'd be like,
When was the
wait a
last
minute.
time I smoked a joint?
Right? Does aspirin count as medication? Right? Like, that's a dumb question. Number 9, do you know who killed those 3 boys? Again, it was an R, so it was repeated. Number 10, do you suspect anyone of having killed those 3 boys? There was no letter there, so we don't know what that was.
That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of an important one.
It's kind of a red flag.
Right?
Like, so he was probably being truthful and they just kept it out.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
I honestly don't doubt that.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that.
What it sounds like.
Yeah. Detective Ridge, date exam, May 10th, 1993. Yeah. Complainant number, case file, 9305666. Again, that's the one. So earlier I had said that that's actually the number that the case file came, like that happened to be it. But I have found other things that state otherwise. It was supposed to be 567. It was supposed to be 555. We don't know. Whatever. This is a case file. Whether the cops made it that way or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, I guess it does in the court if people thought that was like a connection to the devil. If that's what they thought was a connection to the devil, those jury need to be dismissed and have another jury brought in if they're putting their basis on the court file number. So subject, Damien Wayne Eccles, address, whatever. We don't need to read that out. Not that he lives there anymore, but West Memphis, date of birth, 12/11/74. Purpose of the examination, homicide investigation. The remark, in the pretest interview, the subject denied having been in Robin Hood Hills on Wednesday, May 5th, 1993. He denied being present when the victims were killed and denied having killed any of the victims. He also said he did not know who killed the 3 victims. So that's your notes. But you're saying because some of them were inconclusive or he coughed, then he failed. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
A 10-question polygraph test was formulated and 3 polygraph charts were conducted. The test questions contain the following relevant questions. Question number 3. At any time Wednesday or Wednesday night were you in Robin Hood Hills? Answer, no. Question number 5. Were you present when those boys were killed? Answer, no. Question number 7. Did you kill any of those 3 boys? Answer, no. Question number 9. Do you know who killed those 3 boys? Answer, no. Question number 10. Do you suspect anyone of having killed those 3 boys? Answer, no. It is the opinion of this polygraph examiner that this subject recorded significant responses indicative of deception when answered the above listed relevant questions in the manner noted. Conclusion. Deception indicated in the post-test interview. The subject denied any involvement in this crime. After approximately 45 minutes, I asked the subject what he was afraid of. He replied, the electric chair. He then said that he liked the hospital in Little Rock. He said he had been treated there for manic depression. After a short period of time, the subject ceased to deny his involvement. Admission through absence of denial. He then said, I will tell you all about it if you let me talk to my mother. Detective Ridge brought his mother into my office to talk to him. After talking to his mother, he again denied being involved in the murders. After approximately 20 minutes, I asked, You're never going to tell anyone about this, but your doctor, are you? He replied, No.
Okay, hang on. We got to touch on this. Of course you're afraid of the electric chair. And of course that's what he says, right? I don't think that means he thinks he's going to be executed for this crime. I think he's being, again, just a shithead, right? It's not like he's going to go, what are you afraid of? Actually, spiders. Like he's going to say something that to give shock value, right? We have to remember that his response wasn't the electric chair, but I also like this hospital. There was probably another question in there that they're not making clear that they asked, right?
When they're doing the polygraph test and they keep asking the same questions, they're like, were you present when those boys were killed? Did you kill any of those 3 boys? Who killed those 3 boys? Anyone having killed those 3? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you not use their names? Because those boys or killed those 3 boys, or that could be anything. You know what I mean?
And
no names were used in a polygraph test.
Right. And it also, wouldn't you use the names to humanize them? Because
that too. But yeah.
But I mean, if you just say those boys, let's say you are talking to the actual killer, right? And you're just saying those boys, you're taking that human part away. So maybe the person that killed them, they disassociate it that way. So they're like, no, I didn't. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you use their names,
you suspect anyone of having killed, and then you say the name.
Yeah.
And the other name. And
right?
Then the
Did
other
you
name.
kill
You know what I mean?
Christopher Byers, Michael Moore, Stevie Branch? You give that because then it makes them more human. Like
it has
how you're kind of, yeah. There's that whole theory that if you're kidnapped or if you're being attacked, you tell the person doing it, don't do this to me. My name is, I am the mother. You want to humanize yourself as much as possible to hopefully deter the person, to get them to stop attacking you.
And just by wording it this way is super unprofessional.
Yeah. If they wanted to find out if he did it or not, adding their names makes them more human, which I feel would make him more likely to admit if he was guilty. That's what I'm trying to get at. I just couldn't figure out how to get it to come out that way. I was like, But yeah, there was that, and I was and the whole I'll tell you if you let me talk to my mom. I'm gonna get he's 18, so yes, he's technically an adult. At 18, some people still need their mom at 18, right? And so maybe he's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I feel like I'm being accused. I don't know what to do because, I'm 18, but yes, he has experience with the police. So I'm not saying that he's totally naive and wouldn't know to say, I want to talk to a lawyer. But maybe he doesn't know to say, I want to talk to a lawyer. Maybe he's always just been picked up by the cops and then whatever they decide to do, they do. Maybe he doesn't have a true understanding. In fact, until I had a friend whose husband is a lawyer, I did not have an understanding that you don't have to say anything other than I want my lawyer. When they asked you a question, I kind of thought you had to answer. I didn't, I know that you could ask for your lawyer, but I still thought you had to answer the questions. So who's to say that he knew that he didn't have to say anything, right? And he's asking these questions to him. He's like, asked and answered, and you're not moving on. I don't know what to do. I want to talk to my mom. I'll tell you what you want to know, but I want to talk to my mom first. Then they bring in the mom, and he's like, Mom, fuck, I don't know what to do, man. Like, I'm answering their questions. They keep asking, what do we do from here? And the mom's like, well, did you do it? No. Then you don't have to answer anymore. Let's go. And then he's like, yeah, I'm not telling you. It makes sense to me that he's gonna say, I want
Yeah.
my mom. I don't know. I think there's some grown ass men that would be like, I want my mom because I don't know how to get out of this situation, right? Like,
Yeah. I know my 22-year-old son would say, I want my mom.
right?
So
Yeah, like, we assume our parents, not everybody, but most people assume their parents know best, or their parents at least will help them.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sorry, but what makes you any different at 18? You don't turn 18 and suddenly you are flushed with all this information of how to adult, right? Some of us at 47 are still learning how to be an adult.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it makes sense he's going to ask for his mom.
True.
It doesn't mean anything.
No, it absolutely makes sense.
In fact, I would say, if anything, it leans more towards the innocent side.
Yeah.
Because if he's guilty, he's going to be like, fuck, I'm going to need my lawyer. Right? Like,
Yeah.
After this polygraph report, the police considered Damien the primary suspect. They did continue to question other people, contrary to what some West Memphis 3 supporters will say. This does show that Detective Gitchell didn't have tunnel vision per se, although there are some more viable suspects that they didn't pursue as much as I think they should have.
On May 11th, the police talked to Chris Wall. He is given the same questions as Damien was and a polygraph test which he passes. He seemed to have an alibi, so the police cleared him as a suspect. Hall was presumed to be the last person to see the boys entering the woods that night, which is most likely why he was questioned. Also, on May 11th, Billy Newell called the police and told them that on the Monday before the murders, he had traded an Indian kukri knife with Jason Baldwin for some shirts. He stated, I worked at the carnival from Wednesday until Friday, and I had 3 t-shirts that I had traded a pick and a knife for. To Jason Baldwin, before I worked at the carnival, when I got home yesterday, I found the pick and knife. Jason had brought it back. I made the statement to some kids that I wonder if these were the weapons that were used to kill the boys. Then I said maybe I'd better call up to the police and tell them. I know Damien and I think he's one of his own along with his sidekick Jason. I don't belong to any gangs and just recently moved here from Forest City. The police also look into Harold Allison, who was known to have abused children. Allison said he hadn't been to Arkansas in years and declined to come in for questioning and a polygraph. May 12th, the police speak to Michael Griffin, who says that Michael and David Wren may have killed the boys to get into a cult. He also mentions Murray Ferris and Chris Luttrell as the leaders of the cult. The police also looked into Stephen Brown, who had committed cruelty to children in the past and murder and lived nearby, but he had an airtight alibi.
So on May 14th, Joni Brown would tell police that her friends Jennifer Ashley and Whitney Nix told her that a boy named Robert Birch told them that he and Damien had killed the boys and that they would kill 2 more girls. Joni would also say that she saw Damien, Jason, and Jesse enter the skating rink and stay there together until it closed. But she would later change her story and say that it was Damien who said he had killed the boys, not Robert. Whitney Nix would tell police that she did not hear a confession. Again, we can't take anything that is said as gospel. This was big news in West Memphis at this time, and there was not a lot of excitement that was happening. Everybody in town was talking about sharing stories, trying to be involved in one way or another. They already thought Damien was strange, creepy, and dangerous prior to this, so it actually makes kind of sense that he would be someone locals would possibly suspect. Police interviewed Robert Birch, and he told them that the Wrens had committed the crime, and Jason Baldwin had told him that the police thought he and Robert had committed the crime. Robert then told the police that the only friends of Jason that he knew was Jesse Miskelly and Charles Ashley. Charles Ashley had been with Jason the night of the murders until the police had been called to Stephanie Dollars. David Wren was brought into police, questioned, and given a polygraph test, which he passed. He gave blood and hair samples, and he also had a solid alibi. Robert Birch did not have an alibi. He got home from work at 4:10, but could not account for his time after that. On May 15th, David Sims, Dennis Carter, and Jesse Muskelly tell the police that they saw a man, Tracy Laxton, chasing some boys across a railroad track in the area of the woods. On May 26, 18-year-old William Jones spoke to the police stating that Damien Eccles had confessed to him. A transcription of his statement became one of the few documents included as support for the search warrants. Jones stated that Damien was a Satan worshiper, but did not explain how he knew this. Jones went on to say that late in the evening on the previous Friday, May 21st, he questioned Damien about his rumored involvement in the murders. Everybody want me to ask him, so I asked him, and he said that he cut them and that, had sex with them, molested them. Damien allegedly went on to say that he sodomized the victims and cut them with what was described as a 10 to 12-inch knife. Jones said that he talked to Damien about the confession the next day, and at that time, Damien denied it. Honestly, you really think that if Damien did it, he's going around town telling every fucking kid that he did this shit? Like, I don't know. It's hard to believe that every one of these statements is true, right?
Oh, kids say the wildest shit.
Right? Oh, God.
Jones' aunt, Sherry Gilbert, placed this confession earlier. Approximately 2 days after the boys were discovered, my nephew, William Jones, and I were watching TV, and William told me that a boy named Damien told him that him and Jason Baldwin and a third unknown person were the ones that killed the boys. Sherry Gilbert handwritten note, June 7, 1993. In undated notes, Detective Shane Griffin wrote, he stated Damien is a devil worshipper and he is dangerous, and he, William Jones, is afraid of Damien. This contrasted with his taped interview.
Okay, so we're going to do that wonderful thing again where Cash is going to be Jones and Sophia is going to read as Detective Ridge.
But you don't want to go to the police department?
No, sir.
Because you're scared of Damien?
Nah, I am not scared of Damien.
Then what are you scared of?
I've been in trouble before, and I just try to stay away, I guess. Not really you all, but Crittenden County? I try to stay away. They don't like me.
When interviewed by Ron Lax, the investigator for Eccles' defense team, Jones retracted his statement, saying he just made up something he thought the police wanted to hear. Ridge was unsatisfied with this retraction and suspected Jones might be afraid of Satanists. In a taped conversation with Jones's mother 1 week before the jury was to be selected for the Eccles Baldwin trial, Ridge asked whether Lax had threatened or intimidated Jones. Even if it's not a direct threat, kind of like, you do you really know what you're doing? Testifying against someone supposedly involved in the Satan worshiping and what they might do to you. Remember what they did to those little kids? So
this is Ridge's phone conversation with Daquita Dunham on February 15th, 1994.
In contrast, Jones's mother gave a different characterization of the conversation with Lax. Daquita Dunham, when he was talking to William, he was just talking to him more or less as a teacher would or someone. He was understanding, and he did tell him several times, all I want is the truth. It doesn't matter what the truth is because I need the truth. Jones did not testify at the trials. Fogelman and Davis asked for a hearing in chambers, where they alleged an investigator for the defense had been improperly interfering with witnesses. Ronald L. Lax, a Memphis private investigator, videotaped Jones the day before saying, I just up and said something that I didn't know nothing about.
So there again, people just saying random shit, right?
That's
I
what they do.
Yeah, I think like we said, the area, whatever, there wasn't a lot going on. It was 1993. It was very dull and boring. Like we didn't have the internet, they didn't have lots to do, and so this exciting thing happens, right? And everyone wants to be involved and wants to be a part of it, and I think they all just kind of took what they thought and ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is unfortunate because at the end of the day, the only people this hurts is the families of Christopher Myers, Michael Moore, and Stevie Branch,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're supposed to be trying to help with justice for them. And I'm sure they didn't do it to be malicious, but unfortunately, it made the investigation a hell of a lot harder at the very least. Okay, well, we are going to end there and we'll be back next week for episode 4 of our 487 episode series on the West Memphis 3.
Like, how many episodes are there?
She said there's only supposed to be 8 max.
I don't know.
So this makes it, because we split this one up, we're at 16.
So you went
now?
from 8 max to 16?
Yeah. I think initially, didn't I say 3? Didn't I say it'll be a 3-part episode? And then I was like, hang on, I feel like we need to get a lot of this feels really significant. Some parts you might be like, what the fuck are we talking about this for? But it all goes to show how the community reacted and why, if the police department did have any tunnel vision, why? It wasn't necessarily them being, aha, I will get those pesky kids. I think it was everybody's feeding them this information and they're like, well, holy shit.
Yeah.
We have to follow this trail, even though there was other trails that probably should have been followed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So hopefully y'all are still with us. Just wait, there's exciting stuff coming up, like autopsy reports and witness testimony. We are going to play Jesse Miskelly's confession. We're going to play his actual confession. So you'll get to hear him, which I think we were going to read it back and forth. But you know what? I think it's more important and it'll be more impactful to hear his words. So,
Right.
Especially his.
absolutely. So that's it for Moms on Mics this week.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Moms on Mics Podcast, on TikTok at Moms on Mics, and join our Facebook group, Moms on Mics.
If anyone has any topics you would like us to cover, or if you have any questions or suggestions, you can email us at momsonmics@gmail.com or submit through our website, momsonmics.com.
We would also appreciate it if you could rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps the podcast move up on their charts so it gets more exposure. I hope you join us again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.